I just had a couple of these. If you don't, I mean, it's okay. I can add them if I'm gonna fix adding your clarifying statements.
Okay, welcome everybody. To protect our constituents, our city officials and city staff, the city reminds all those in attendance that physical distancing and face coverings are required. I call to order this regular meeting of the City of Campbell City Council on Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. This regular city council meeting is conducted in person and via telecommunication and is compliant with provisions of the Brown Act. The city council meeting is being live streamed on channel 26, the city's website, and on YouTube. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gibbons. Here. Councilwoman Landry. Present. Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bybee. Present. Mayor Resnikoff.
Here. Thank you very much. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to invite Public Works Superintendent Alex Mordmano to come forward, lead us in the pledge, please, and we'll discuss why you're here later. Whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alex. We'll bring you back in a little bit. Okay. So we go to special presentations and proclamations. There are none. We go to communications and petitions. At this point, let me first invite the city attorney to report out on any closed session action. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor Resnikoff, members of the council. In closed session with regard to FPPC number 2017-00125, council members Landry, Gibbons, and Mayor Resnikoff initially recused themselves, at which point council member Gibbons was brought back by random selection to consider indemnification of existing and former council members who had been named in the action. By a vote of 3-0, council members Gibbons, Bybee, and Lopez voted to indemnify all of the named parties, at which point council members Resnikoff and Landry were invited back into the closed session as they no longer had a personal financial interest at stake. Following further discussion, the council voted unanimously to defend the action.
Okay, thank you, Bill. We do have one written communication and petition request for the city council to consider a safe gun storage ordinance. This recommended action will be the city council accept the written communication. Speakers will have up to 2 minutes each to speak. This is very similar for the council to oral communications, so it'll be handled the same way. We won't be able to take action on it, but we can refer the matter to staff. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody who wants to speak?
Yes, the first person we have has her hand raised, Sharon Genkin.
Sharon Genkin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you hear me?
Yeah, speak up if you can, and please go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you, council members and mayor. My name is Sharon Jenkin. I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I'm also a former principal of the Lynn Haven School, part of the Campbell Union School District. And I'm here speaking in support of a future safe storage firearms ordinance in Campbell. Unsecured firearms are easily stolen and used in criminal activities. We have also 80% of school shootings are done by a student or a former student of the school using an unsecured firearm obtained from their home or a relative's home. Every day, an average of 2 teens commit suicide using an unsecured firearm. California Penal Code 25100 does not define how to safely store a firearm and doesn't apply to all homes. Many other towns, such as Los Altos Hills, Palo Alto, Montessorino, and other cities and towns up and down California have passed secure storage laws. I'm here asking you to please draft a secure storage ordinance to be brought before a future vote. Let's protect the children and families of Campbell.
Thank you very much. Is there, I think Sean Mendelson is probably for oral communications.
Yes, and the next person I have signed up on this top is Kathy Hawley.
Okay. Kathy Holly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead, please. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kathy Hawley, and I'm a longtime resident of Campbell. I'm also a recently retired educator of the Campbell Union School District, where I worked for 36 years. I am here tonight to ask for your support of a future safe storage firearms ordinance for our city. During my many years working with children, I served as an advocate for student learning, and so I feel compelled to come before you tonight as an advocate for our children's safety. I would like you to know that nearly every day in this country, one small child unintentionally kills themselves or another child after finding an unsecured firearm. It is imperative that a safe storage ordinance is adopted as soon as possible because there has been a dramatic rise in gun sales since COVID began, which has resulted in a shocking 43% increase in unintentional deaths of small children and a 9% increase in teen suicides. Research shows that keeping guns securely stored does not hinder self-protection because a gun can still be accessed within seconds, but it does prevent unintentional deaths of children and teens by as much as 85%, depending on the type of storage. So in closing, I would like to urge city staff to draft a secure storage ordinance to be brought back to the council for a future vote. I am proud to live in Campbell, a community who puts children first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this item?
This is the last name I had on this item.
Not on this? you said?
No.
Okay, so in that case, we will, we need to take a vote on this on a recommended action to receive the report or receive the request?
No actions
No
necessary.
action required? Okay, thank you. So we'll move.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly, certainly.
I guess I'm curious, just being, just from my own knowledge, if we wanted to have staff follow up or what would be the appropriate process?
So if I can take a shot at it, I think it's timely because the appropriate time, we're going to meet on a priority session on the 24th. So I think it's an appropriate time to add on agenda items or a work plan for next fiscal year beginning July 1.
And for the public, can we communicate when that is scheduled for?
The meeting itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's in.
I can. It's
it's
February 24th at 8:30 in Q80 in the community center, which is what's the address out there? Yes, thank you. 1 West Campbell Avenue. Broadcast hybrid on Zoom as well.
And perhaps that could be communicated to commenters tonight.
Yeah,
If
we'd be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move to oral requests, the portion of the meeting for persons wishing to address the council on items not on the agenda. And they will have 2 minutes to do so. Madam Clerk, I see we have Sean Mendelson. Sean, can you hear me? He's muted.
Yeah. Hello.
You're unmuted. Yeah, please go ahead.
My name is Sean Mendelson. I'm a proud resident of Campbell. I performed children's music at the library a dozen times. I performed at the farmer's market. I taught classes at the Campbell Recreation Center. I'm asking for a resolution to make climate action plan in Campbell to proactively fight the climate emergency we're presently facing, as we're basically the only city in Santa Clara County without a climate action plan. Today, NASA reported, thanks to climate change, sea levels along the coastline of the U.S. will rise 10 and 12 inches by 2050. Sea level rise driven by global climate change is a clear and present risk to the U.S. today and for the coming decades and centuries. Sea levels will continue to rise due to the ocean's sustained response to the warming that has already occurred, even if climate change mitigation succeeds in limiting surface air temperatures in the coming decades. While the report notes that the amount of sea level rise over the next 30 years due to thermal expansion of global and ice sheet melt is already locked in, it adds that dramatically curbing greenhouse gas emissions and limiting temperature rise would avert the catastrophe inundation of the U.S. coastal regions. We are, by definition, in Campbell, a coastal community. I'm appealing to the hearts and minds of everybody in that room today. Police officers, lawyers, clerk, council members, lead us into a climate-safe future. And it's an exciting opportunity. It could be fun, dare I say. I'm looking for a champion on this council to step up and help do this thing. Most of the work has been done. I have all the appropriate people and ideas. Next, I will start bringing the community support. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. And as noted, we're having a priority session on the 24th, and I'm going to mention that again at the end of the meeting. And that's an appropriate time, as Councilmember Lopez asked, to bring up issues like this. Madam Clerk, are there any other people wishing to speak at oral requests?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. In that case, we'll move to council announcements. City Hall will now be open to the public starting Tuesday, February 22nd. Appointments will no longer be needed for in-person services. City Hall business hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. For your convenience, many services are also available online. You can check the department pages on our website at campbellca.gov to view information for all City of Campbell departments. The City Clerk's office is accepting applications for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. To find out more about this committee or to apply, please contact the City Clerk's office at 408-866-2117 or visit the city's website at campbellca.gov. The application deadline is Friday, April 8th at 5 p.m. The final deadline for those interested in submitting a draft redistricting map is Friday, February 18th at 5 p.m. The final public hearing wherein council will consider all draft maps is Tuesday, March 1st. This will be the final opportunity to provide public input on the future of redrawing the city council election district boundaries. The community's input is extremely important, and we encourage all residents to participate in the redistricting process. For more information, please contact the city clerk's office at 408-866-2117. The AARP Tax Aid Program will provide income tax assistance through April 15th at the Campbell Community Center. Clients can drop off and pick up their documents by appointment. Income tax assistance is offered to Campbell residents, resident adults 18 years and older. For more information, please visit campbellca.gov. High school students are invited to share their stories and solutions for climate change and win scholarship prizes. $20,000 in scholarships are available through the Empower Silicon Valley Youth Short Film Competition. You can learn more about that and register for the competition at svcleanenergy.org. The 130th annual celebration of Campbell Early Settlers and Heritage Day will be held in the Orchard City Banquet Hall at the Campbell Community Center on Monday, February 21st from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For more information, please visit campbellchamber.net. And finally, City Hall offices will be closed on Monday, February 21st in observance of President's Day. Police Department services will remain open to the public. We're now going to move on to consent calendar, where items 1 through 7 will be taken as a whole unless somebody pulls an item. I will pull item 7 and ask the council, staff, or public if they'd like to pull any other items. Vice Mayor?
I'd like to pull item 4.
So Vice Mayor pulls item 4. So if there are no other items pulled, we can have a motion, please, for items 2. Is it is it 2? 2, 3, 5, and 6. Thank you.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Landry, second by Councilmember Gibbons. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Gibbons.
Aye.
Councilwoman Landry.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bybee.
Aye.
Mayor Resnikoff.
Aye. Great. So we'll move to item 4, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to note for the record on the minutes on item 11, the mid-year budget report. Thank you for recording my comments as a no vote on the personnel request, but it was also my intent to have my no vote registered in the roll call vote and on the minutes and on the resolution for the personnel actions. So if that could be accommodated, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'll just comment on that. So if we can't easily modify it in the notes, to let us know, and we'll just take those issues as 2 motions and 2 votes each time to separate it out. Okay. So is there a motion to accept item 4?
And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Bybee, second by Councilmember Gibbons. Can we go roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Gibbons.
Aye.
Councilwoman Landry.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bybee.
Aye.
Mayor Resnikoff.
Aye. So thank you very much. We'll come back to item 7. Item 7 is one I pulled. It's commending Alex Mordwino for more than 9 years of service with the city of Campbell upon his retirement. And there may be multiple comments here. Let me start out, if I may. Alex has worked for 9 years at City of Campbell, but 35 years in local government and public service. He's been our maintenance superintendent in public works since December 2012, managing all the city's maintenance and operations sections, instrumental in creation and implementation of maintenance zones through the city. And let me just add, there's a lot that you've done. I'm going to add personally, the reason I wanted to pull this is I worked on a project for years to get a park course in Campbell Park, and it was a lot harder than we thought, and a 2-year project became, I think, 8 years or something like that. I want to say that when you came on board, you kind of put a focus on it and helped steer it. And honestly, I don't know that it would be there, and it's used a lot, but I don't know that it would be there if you didn't help steer the resources. And it was an interesting project because it was funded outside the city, but the city oversaw it. I want to thank you personally, because I honestly don't think we'd have it if you didn't step in and help us with the public works side and actually, get it done and have contractors pouring concrete and things that were more difficult than we thought to do. So I appreciate that. I'll add to that just a little bit in that, we relied on you for the parks portion of it, but I remember the day that we said we need to acknowledge somehow on the signs. How do we acknowledge the people that donated for estates? And we're talking about etching and all that. And here you came up, and it turned out you knew all about engraving and etching, and said, kind of, how do you know that? Well, I had a trophy business, right? And all of a sudden we had an expert that knew, oh no, you want to use this material, and here, if you do this, it'll show up. And in talking to you, it was really interesting. I related this one time to the director. Said like, wow, did the parks and you did trophy. And then you said one day you were a butcher. So I just kind of funny in talking to you, get to know you. One day I'm passing you outside, and I found out, thankfully, you're also quite a baker, right? And really good stuff. So I and it's just natural to me. You were a butcher, you were a baker. So I'll put my order in now. If you'd like, because we kind of know where this is going. But thank you so much, because honestly, that project was a big deal, and it needed adult supervision, and it got done. So appreciate that. Are there other council members that would like to speak? And Director Purse will bring you up afterwards. Councilwoman Landry.
I actually met Alex in 1988, I want to say, 89. We both worked for the city of San Jose. I hadn't seen him until I got on council, and I'm out touring the yard, and he goes, "Don't you remember me? We used to work together." I said, "Oh yeah, that's right." I looked up. Yes, you're right. But parks are such a visible part of our city, and the fact how well they've been maintained says a lot about how well you did here at the city. So I just want to extend a thank you to your 9 years here, and good luck on your next adventure. What are you going to be, a candlestick maker now?
It could be. Councilmember Lopez?
Yeah, I'll just mention, Alex, sorry you didn't get more of a chance to have so many chances to get together, hear from you, like some of the other council members, but thank you for your many years of service. And one thing that really jumps out at me is all the work you did to involve the community and the work that you did. That is such an important piece of leadership, and I think part of what really makes Campbell special, that people, when they have ideas or want to get involved or want to volunteer and help, that they feel that they can do that. So thank you so much for contributing, and congratulations.
Councilmember Gibbons? I'm sorry, we'll come back to the Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Alex, as people have said and will continue to say, the parks are an essential part of what makes Campbell Campbell, and the level of commitment that the mayor described about taking ownership of what those parks and all the services that are needed to keep them up are so essential, and that you made a difference in our community for 9 years. I'm sorry it's not a little longer, but I know you've got a wonderful future in mind, and thank you very much for all that you've contributed.
Vice Mayor?
I just want to say congratulations, Alex. It was great working with you for the short time that I was on city staff, and I want to echo what several have said about our parks, which are the jewels of our community, and also for your leadership in the overall maintenance of our city, especially also the street maintenance and tree maintenance that often gets kind of not much recognition, and I know it's a tough job, and those workers put their lives essentially on the lives when they're out there, in the middle of the street trying to repair potholes and whatnot. So thank you very much for your leadership, and enjoy your retirement.
Yeah, that's a good point. We always think of parks, but we don't think of all the other things. Director Capurso, did you want to speak as well?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for the opportunity. And like you, I would like to thank Alex for all of his service and congratulate him, and very sorry to see him go. For those of you that are here and for those of you that are watching, did want to kind of paint the picture of what Alex has brought to the city. You know, as many of you have touched on different aspects, he has been directly responsible for managing the day-to-day maintenance services for all city infrastructure, which not only includes our wonderful parks, but also our trees, our signals and street lighting, our storm sewers, parks, street trees, our buildings, facilities, as well as the city's fleet. He implemented about 8 years ago this concept of maintenance zones across the city, where we shifted our resources toward a more proactive approach, while we still maintain the flexibility to address emergencies. But the move toward proactive maintenance has really increased the efficiency of our resources, not only from a personnel perspective, but also from a financial perspective as well, and made our budgeting a little more predictable for what we need to do to address the future maintenance needs. He has greatly increased the opportunities for volunteerism by not only working with the community directly, but with some of our larger, more prominent volunteer groups for things like, I've seen many of you at the park projects and at creek trail cleanups. And so that's hopefully and he's established these long-lasting relationships. So I believe that those will continue long after Alex leaves. So that'll be a great legacy. And then lastly, I also wanted to touch on his commitment to staff. He is a big believer in staff education and safety training. And so we've got a very well-trained staff, not only areas of safety, but he's also been able to introduce opportunities for technical training. So we have a better prepared workforce, increase the use of technology, as well as a better plan for succession planning as the organization moves forward. So all of those are things that Alex leaves behind. But above and beyond that, I personally want to thank him. He has been a great resource to me and a confidant to me. We've been through, this is our 10th budget season together. So we've done a lot of work on that. So once again, thank you, Alex, for everything. You will be missed, but the organization will move forward and be successful. And much of that is a credit to you. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You think it's going to turn into This Is Your Life, huh? Alex, you're welcome to come up and say a few words if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to first say thank you to each of our council here for your recognition. I've always felt as part of a great place to work is to celebrate our achievements and to celebrate those things that we've done well. And so I appreciate you celebrating my retirement with me. I've really been fortunate and blessed to have had a great working career to have been involved with many exciting and great projects, designing and constructing parks, subdivisions. I've been involved with the development of roadways and the building of bridges and all these great public works projects that you think about. I've also been involved with developing maintenance programs and preventative maintenance, which has been really rewarding. We often don't think when building something what's involved with maintaining this and keeping our new infrastructure in place. One of the first projects that I was involved with in my career as in public works was the delivery of the San Jose Police Communications Building. I had a very, very minor role in that, but it was new to me. It was very exciting, and I was working for the landscape architecture and architectural engineering division of the Public Works Department in San Jose. And to think, my career will be bookended by a couple exciting police projects. It was really cool. I've had very minor input into the design of our building here with some of the infrastructure or some of the things that go into supporting our new police building and some of the landscape and those types of things on the grounds that will be happening. So I don't know, it's kind of a cool thing to bookend your career with a couple of police projects. It's hard not to get sentimental when you think about your career, and saying goodbye to people. It's those projects that I was involved with have been very rewarding. But what has been gratifying is the people that I've met and the friendships I've developed over the years. And I never would have thought that I would have been involved with public works service for 35 years. And I am grateful to each person that I've worked with. I would like to thank each of you. Councilmember Landry, you mentioned, we met in 1988. I don't know whether to thank you or to curse you for introducing me to talking to a city council. Councilmember Landry recruited me in a new program to support a new program, speaking to council to encourage them to support a new program at the time of supporting pre-tax dollars from our payroll to go to child care. And that was the first time I'd spoken to council. It was very nerve-wracking. Vice Mayor Bybee, I appreciate your support as a new superintendent. You were very kind in your instruction and tutelage of city policy and practices, and I really appreciated that. And as I learned at the city ways. And Mayor Resnikoff, you had mentioned a meeting in my office after shortly starting. You and Bob Carlson, our volunteer coordinator extraordinaire, had come into my office, and we talked about the park course project and other things and other opportunities. And as we worked through that park course project, I really came to appreciate the power and the value of a good volunteer program and what volunteers could do and the community that it builds. It was really, it left a mark on me, and I appreciate all that it was done. This is all your pre-council days, and we see your face at these volunteer projects, and staff recognizes that and appreciates the support over the years that we've received from you and others, from council. Councilmember Gibbons, you and I met on a small project supporting our volunteers over at the Ainsley House, and so your support of staff has been appreciated as well. Councilmember Lopez, you and I haven't had a chance to work on any projects, but I will tell you that staff recognizes your support of labor over the year of this past year, and we appreciate that. I would be remiss in not recognizing our Director of Public Works, Todd Caperso. He has been a friend and a partner in improving, which I feel we have improved many of our services related to neighborhoods and our infrastructure sustainability. It has been a real pleasure over these past 9 years to work with Todd in this capacity. And I'm just, I need to express my appreciation to all the staff members at the service yard. They are dedicated men and women in our city staff. They are passionate about the work that they do. They take pride in the work that they do, and they are just the backbone of keeping things moving in the city, and just really grateful to be associated with them and to have been a partner with them over the last 9 years. Yeah, I'm looking for new hobbies. Maybe candlestick making will fit the resume, right? I'm often asked what is retirement going to bring? Well, for me, my wife and I will be traveling over the next couple of years in our motorhome that we bought a couple of years ago. We're going to visit national parks and communities throughout the United States, getting reacquainted with family and extended family, and especially those that might have a large lot for me to park my motorhome on. But we look forward to traveling and just getting reacquainted with each other and our family and enjoying life. And it has been the generosity of this city and that it will allow me to do that. And I appreciate everything that the city has given me. So thank you for your recognition.
Thank you, Alex. And what's amazing to me is it's so much done. It seems like it's got to be longer than 9 years, but so much was done in such a short period of time. So thank you. I'll go ahead, if I can, and make the motion to approve item 7, commending Alex on his years of service and congratulating him for his retirement.
I'll second that.
So motion by the mayor, second by Councilwoman Landry. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Gibbons,
Aye.
Councilwoman Landry,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bybee,
Aye.
Mayor Resnikoff.
Aye. Great. Thank you again. We move to public hearings and introduction of ordinances. This is item 8, modifications to the picnic reservation policy with changes to fiscal year 22 fee schedule and budget adjustment. The presenter is Recreation and Community Services Director Natasha Bissell.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. Natasha Bissell, the Recreation Director. Tonight, I have brought forward proposed modifications to the picnic reservation policy with correlating fee changes to the fee schedule, as well as a budget adjustment for signage and temporary personnel. The picnic reservation policy is in place to provide a means for members of our community to reserve a picnic site at our park for their sole specific use for that day. John D. Morgan Park has both reservable spaces as well as first come, first served spaces. In recent years, there's been an increase in the use of this first come, first serve area on the Rincon Avenue side, and more recently, the more misuse of this space. In 2016, a resident living near the Rincon side of John D. Morgan Park reached out to recreation staff through the website, noting the ongoing use of amplified sound in the park. Since amplified sound is not permitted through our municipal code, this ignited a dialogue between our staff and the resident and other residents in the area to kind of learn more about what was going on in our parks. Staff utilized existing resources at the time of using temporary personnel of field attendants to do regular check-ins on the weekends. Their primary location was not to be stationed at the park, but to kind of come in and out of the park over the course of the 2 days. Since the field attendants did not stay there, the issues relating to noise and amplified sound would just resume once they had left. Additionally, if large parties had already been set up, staff would talk to the host and educate them, but by no means was asking them to remove tents or tables and chairs or to stop their party. Staff has remained in contact with the neighbors in this area to help resolve some of these issues. In 2018, these concerns continued and staff identified some discrepancies between park policies and the municipal code. Staff took that time to kind of update the municipal code relating to park issues and brought that forward to council for approval so that they were more accurately aligned with our park policies. This was approved in July 2019. And at the same time, staff also proposed a pilot program called Park Ambassadors so that there was on-site staff at John D. Morgan. So in July 2019, we began that Park Ambassador program. And we did see some improvements over that summer, but it did not resolve all of the issues. In March of 2020, with the onset of COVID-19, this pilot program was not reinstated for that next summer. Staffing reductions across all temporary personnel were reduced to essential needs, and our field attendants and park ambassadors were not funded in summer of 2020 or 2021. In the development of our current budget for fiscal 22, this temporary staffing position was also not identified as a need at the time. So staff did not participate in pushing forward. Our picnic rentals, as far as revenue that was being come in, was very moderate. So it was not something that staff had requested during the budget process. Since the initial lockdown of COVID-19 in 2020, this misuse of the first come, first serve area has returned. There's been large gatherings, amplified music, bounce houses. Cecil, if you could please bring up some of these images. It's been noted on several occasions and sent in by neighbors in that area of large parties. Here you can see an inflatable mechanical bull brought into the first come, first serve area. This presents an issue of liability for the city. So when customers create a park permit, they're allowed to use inflatable bounce houses in designated locations with specific vendors who have City of Campbell business license as well as insurance on file with the city. So when they bring them in on their own, it does present some additional risk for the city. You can kind of scroll through to see the heavy impact of this area. So you can see they're dropping off tables and chairs, and they keep going through. Let's see, large tents, which are also not permitted through our municipal code. Again, tables and chairs. So it's really hard as a temporary personnel to kind of go out after this has been set up, requesting it to be brought down. So this is one of the issues that we have with enforcement out at the park. It was the intention of staff to have these requests made through to the city council during the mid-year budget. However, due to unfilled vacancies in our Parks and Recreation Commission, we were unable to get a quorum in our January meeting and had to postpone this report going to the PRC until February, resulting in a delay of this request from the regular budget process. The request tonight for temporary personnel would be similar to the requests being made due to increased rentals, and we need more building attendant hours, similar in line with that it's a temporary personnel position. The changes being requested of City Council tonight have been approved by the Parks and Recreation Commission, and approval tonight would convert 6 existing picnic sites of John D. Morgan Park to reservable spaces and would limit occupancy via the registration system. And similarly, as to our picnic reservations now, if a site is not reserved, it defaults to a first come first served basis. So we do have signs posted out there so that customers as they arrive would know. Our registration or reservation system does also block users from booking multiple picnic sites. So they're only allowed to book 1 per day. So it does prohibit them from renting all of them in that surrounding playground area. Staff has also provided fee changes associated with the picnic rentals and has adjusted the occupancies at all the picnic sites at John D. Morgan so that it aligned with the accessible tables and the amount of open space adjacent to those picnic sites. And approval would also provide a budget adjustment for new signage at these picnic areas, as well as temporary personnel to monitor and enforce rules and regulations. And one of the things we learned through the Park Ambassador program was that our staff and recreation leaders are not the appropriate staff for really solid enforcement out at our parks. Been working with PD, and it's been suggested that it's an unsworn officer public safety assistant type position that could be most useful out there. They have a connection with PD and direct lines of communication, and are also trained better than myself or other people on how to properly enforce rules and regulations in our public open spaces. Staff has been working with the neighbors in this area and adjacent to the Rincon side of John D. Morgan since 2016. We've attempted to mitigate these issues with existing resources, and we've tested it with the pilot program of the Park Ambassadors. The pilot program did highlight this need for having staff out at our parks to really enforce some of the rules and regulations that are out there. But it does need somebody with a little bit more authority to enforce them, hence it being supervised through PD. Lastly, it was noted during the pilot program that there were community members who were frustrated with the inability to reserve picnic sites near the playground area for small group gatherings. And we also found that our staff would arrive at 7, and oftentimes people would show up at 3 or 4 in the morning to caution off tables and stuff to kind of save their spot. Then they would leave, and then another customer would come and remove their stuff and put their markings. And so when our staff arrived, there was already tension and escalation between people at the park. So those types of things can be eliminated with the option to actually reserve the space. Lastly, staff would also like to note that there aren't currently costs associated with our picnic reservations. They're done solely through our website. And so that the revenue generated during the picnic rentals would offset the ongoing expenses of temporary personnel, and staff wouldn't be requesting any park ambassadors or field attendants through the recreation department in light of having this position staffed through the police department. So that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council for Director Bissell? Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you. Is the request tonight, assuming the council takes action, would this be through the rest of the fiscal year or for next fiscal year? It's for a limited period.
So it would
right.
Then, if it was going past July 1, it'll be part of our fiscal 23 budget process that the police department, if they wouldn't continue having this position, and we would really enjoy them having this position to help support recreation, that would be done through that. So yes, this request is through June 30th.
Okay, and then it would come back as part of the regular
Yes,
process.
that is correct.
Okay, and currently the times, and thank you to staff for being really responsive to my questions on this. When PD has been called, and I know it's kind of has tried to been, community members try to work with staff, and that's kind of been a last resort. What has that process been like? Is it they show up and there's a warning? Do they make people leave? What does that look like?
So the reports that we had pulled for you were specific to noise disruption, disturbances, and most of the time, a responding officer would ask them to turn off their music, and they would. So it comes down to that. But as you saw on the timestamps on a lot of those, my assumption would be that they had probably endured it all day, and by 5 or 6 o'clock, they'd kind of met their max. Sometimes it was even later on those timestamps. So from what I could see from the reports, it seemed that they were responsive, or they packed up and left.
Okay. And I'm not sure if this would, and thank you, that's helpful, because I didn't have much information beyond the timestamps, but I appreciate that. And then I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for Chief Berg, but if we were to institute this policy, would that process change, or would people be because there's fees associated, would they be liable to penalties or fees for non-compliance? How would this change what the process has been?
I don't think that's the intention of anyone in Campbell. I think for us, it's having good customer service, starting from an educational approach, and really kind of teaching the public how to use our parks appropriately. And that has been our process all along. No one wants to be the person shutting down a 3-year-old's birthday party at a park, and so our intention is that we provide ample opportunity for them to do it in a manner that meets the needs of the city as well, and have that information as transparent as possible for them. So I don't think it's going to change anything. The big part is that if you have someone there early enough and on site, when a delivery truck shows up, you can stop the delivery truck. Once the delivery truck is unloaded, tables and chairs, it really creates a public scene that I don't think is true to the nature of Campbell, right? And so I think we would like to avoid that at all costs.
Okay. And just for the chief, does that sound accurate, or anything to add? Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, I'll reiterate what Natasha just said. We really would want to focus on the educational component of following the rules. And by having a representative with some level of authority there prior to things becoming issues, I think we'll be able to proactively prevent any potential issues. So really, enforcement in these type of scenarios is a last case option for us, as we really want people out there enjoying the parks and our facilities.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody in the public wishing to speak on this item?
Nothing.
Nobody? Okay, bring it back to council then, close public hearing. Council for discussion or a motion. Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate this being brought to us, and I'm okay with the fact that it came past the mid-year budget just because of circumstances. So that then the urgency of needing to do it is fine with me. I actually have quite a few comments and discussions to hear what others have to say. I don't think these changes go far enough. The impact on the park and on the maintenance, on the noise, on the neighbors. If you have parties for 100 people, where do people for 100 people park in the neighborhoods? They spread out all across the street. At the school, in the neighborhoods, at the school, the parking lot at the school is blocked off with a chain fence. Somebody took a truck and pulled the whole structure of the chain fence out of the ground, destroyed landscaping and irrigation just so they could get in and park. So it's a significant issue. So I would like to take note that our population in the city has increased from 40,000 to 44,000, that we have the new Universal Park there, which is going to increase the use, particularly on the Rincon, on the Bud side. So my thoughts are that I think we should limit it to Campbell residents only. I am very supportive of the fact that our community needs to have access to our parks that we pay for and maintain. I would like to either eliminate the reservation for non-residents or up the fees substantively. I think that having the overseer there, I'm disappointed that we have to go to the recommended position of a police cadet or whatever it's going to be. But having a uniform will give it some credibility. I'm assuming that that's what's needed. I'm thinking that the signage needs to be very strong and powerful, that it's very clear. And one of the things that restaurants do, particularly coffee shops, is they actually put something on the tables, stenciled on the tables that say, you must have a reservation, you must not do this and that. So there's no excuse for people not knowing what's going on. And I think that I'm absolutely fine with minimizing, if not eliminating, the first come, first served spaces. That's just begging a problem. I've seen it happen myself too often, that there's a lot of controversy that results with that. So I would like to hear what others have to say. I think this is going to be more, I think it's going to be more costly than what's in the proposal. We'll probably get caught up with that at the budget time. And I think the money should be perhaps more substantive to make sure that we have the coverage that's needed and pay for the signage and other things that are needed. If we do it right this first year, if the reservation system is, you sign up and you pay and you get your notice, and then a day ahead, just like we do, you get a notice saying, please be advised, you have this permission, these are your sites, this is what you can and cannot do, you are, committed to doing this. I think if we run it like, I'm going to say like a business and like a commitment, what I'm interested in, and I totally support what Director Bissell said, which is, this is what represents Campbell. This is a service that we are paying for out of the taxpayers' dollars, and the demand is going up and will continue to go up. And I think we have an obligation to serve our community in the high quality way in which we do. So I would like to see us do more than what the staff report says.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Landry?
I appreciate your comments, Councilwoman Gibbons. I'm wondering if we pass this tonight, but then put on our study session on the 24th, the bigger issues about whether it's Campbell residents. And I'm just wanting to see if we can pass it tonight, especially because it already got out of sync with our budget adjustment.
May I respond? I'm fine with adding it on to the priority session, but I think I would like to see what's being proposed tonight to be a little stronger than it is.
And not pass it tonight.
I'm passing something tonight. I'm just saying I think it should be stronger than what's in there right now. Okay.
Councilmember Lopez?
So I just want to start, and again, as I alluded to, had a lot of questions about this, and so thank you, staff, for all their patience on walking me through how this would work and how it has worked in the past. It's also extremely clear from everything I heard that the community, the neighborhood has been very patient, that staff has been very patient, that there's good working relationships, that it has not been punitive or exclusionary. So really appreciate that. And that I think is true to what our community and certainly what I expect of Campbell to be a welcoming place. When I first saw this, and part of why I had so many concerns I had serious concerns about how this would be enforced, about equity, about access. I'm concerned about starting to charge for some fees. But after the conversations and being reassured by staff in the community's approach, at that point and where I am now is I would be okay with what's being proposed tonight, because for anything that comes up, we could sit here and throw out hypothetical problems. And I want to be clear that the concerns I had are hypothetical ones, they're not those kinds of equity issues are not ones that I believe are currently issues. They're hypothetical issues that I'd be concerned about under proposal. We could sit and throw out hypotheticals for any problem and never pass anything. It's clear that there's a problem and that this may be imperfect. We may want to tweak it, but let's try to do something for the community. That's where I am, and given that this is going to come back up in the budget process, where I am is, I'd like to see this pass. Let's learn if we want to tweak it, if we need more enforcement, less, or if it's working, or if it's resolved the issue. Let's see that during the budget process, and then have better data then to address. I don't want to hold up potentially implementing a solution for the community just because there may be problems that may or may not happen. I have to say respectfully, I would not at all support, and I appreciate the discussion because clearly that there's been a problem. I would not be at all supportive of some of the ideas that have been named for further enforcement. And I think certainly not tonight. I think if we are going to discuss those, what I think is appropriate is not the priority session, but the budget process, because I would need to see more data about that. Some of the problems that have been cited are things that would be legal anyway. So I don't see, for example, pulling down the fence and to park, that's not allowed either way. So I don't know that making this policy more strict would stop someone from doing something that's illegal anyway. I don't want to bring it up during the earlier comments, but when I was reading this, I had in mind the example of Palo Alto and their park that was solely for Palo Alto residents. And I don't want to bring that up because I thought it's apples to oranges. It's different from this situation. But I would be concerned about making the park solely for Campbell residents. Palo Alto lost that lawsuit, and so I'd be worried just about, for a number of reasons about going down that route, philosophical issues with it aside, and with making our community more exclusive. So that was a little long-winded. That's just kind of where I am. Would be supportive of the staff motion. I think good discussion and good to discuss these issues, and curious to hear where others are at. But for me, if we want to go beyond what's being proposed tonight, I need to see more data for that on how this approach would work.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I want to thank staff for the report. I found it to be very comprehensive and very clear in the why and the justification for it. There obviously is a problem there and should be and needs to be addressed. So I'll support the staff recommendation. In follow up to Councilmember Gibbons' comments about restricting the use to Campbell residents or restricting reservations. The one downside I see to that is that we may be short-sighting ourselves, and we may not get the demand of Campbell residents for those reservable areas, and therefore some of those reservable areas are going to be vacant, and we're going to have the same problem continuing with people coming from other communities or even from Campbell to encroach on those spaces. So I believe that we should have, it should be open to Campbell residents as well as non-residents, just for that purpose, so that I think there's a demand not only with the Campbell residents but with outside residents for park space. And so I think by having it available for all local community, our local community as well as surrounding community, we would be avoiding having spaces that are left open and having people encroach on it. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, Thank you. A couple of comments. I'm generally in support as well. I think this is kind of a starting point. I would agree with Councilmember Lopez that we start somewhere. I think, excuse me, eliminating the first come, first serve solves a lot of problems. But of course, then you have to have the enforcement. A question for staff. Do other cities like locally San Jose, anybody surrounding Saratoga, Los Gatos, do they limit their use of parks to residents only for reservation?
Not that I'm aware of. It's a pretty industry standard to have picnic sites available for reservation. So we're fairly unique in that we do by the day, so we don't have transition through our day. So if you've booked the site, it's yours for sun up to sundown. Neighboring cities like Los Gatos, Saratoga, you do them by the hour, and so you have turnover and potentially more issues, but they also have park rangers usually within their parks that are kind of monitoring that a little bit more. So,
okay, do they have any instances where they charge non-residents more for the same?
Yeah, that's pretty industry
that's
standard. And there is a standard upcharge in the fee schedule for non-residents.
Do we do that, for example, at the Ainsley House for events and things like that?
Not for facility rentals of the Ainsley House. In our at the community center, we have a standard discount depending on capacity of the room, what that discount is for Campbell residents. And Campbell residents also have priority in advancement. So I think in this instance with the picnics, they get a 1-day head start. So if the picnic site becomes available 6 months from today and tomorrow, then a non-resident could.
That was my next question. Could we move up where there's a window of
We could do
period?
a larger window. Absolutely. That would be another change to the policy.
I would agree with Councilor Lopez I'm happy with this, but to go beyond it today, I think requires a little more discussion. And the last point I'll just make is, I agree. I don't think this is a priority session issue. This is more of a budget issue of how much we need to define some other rules and then how much we want to pay for them and what do they cost. I don't view it as one of the big priorities of the city, but it's ongoing work plan. And I think to me, it would make sense most at the budget time, but I'll support it certainly today as written. Is there any other Councilmember Gibbons?
Yes, thanks.
comments?
Just a couple of comments. I know the park. I think I know the park that Councilmember Lopez was referring to in Palo Alto. And I think the issue was the neighborhood was declaring it their park, not a city park. It was the neighborhood declaring it was only theirs. So I think there was a little bit of a different situation there. I'm fine going forward with what's here. I will just simply say, because I happen to live fairly close to this park, and I'd hear the complaints and I see, and I mean, I live, I don't know, 5 football fields away. And the noise, the music, the cars, the speeding, I mean, it's so overused. And from my experience, the gate was pulled not because it was illegal, but because the crowd, the people wanting to use it, had a big party and they wanted parking. So it's the slides, don't underestimate what those slides were showing. Trucks delivering tables and chairs for 100 or more people to use the parks. I mean, it's an extraordinary expectation. So the reason I'm saying for Campbell residents only is, one, I genuinely believe we've had a huge demand in our parks, and the parks and our population has increased. And we may run short of having them reserved, but they're always available that day or the day before if they're not reserved for anybody. But we may not be serving our own residents because they don't want to deal with what they have to deal with in terms of people getting there early and setting up at 3 in the morning, which they do. So I'm putting out there, I think that I just think that after we've learned so much with COVID. We know our parks have been the brunt of helping our community through it. And we know our population has substantively increased, and we haven't increased our parks. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't dispute that you want to put it in as part of the budget discussion, but this is a good time to put the issue forward to make sure that we think about what we want to do at that point. So I just offer that.
Thank you. A quick comment before I'll go to Councilmember Lopez. I think I'm not willing to go beyond the recommendation today, but I think certainly if we do bring it back at budget time, you have the time to give us some information. Who is reserving? We have the information, so we know what percentages of where they're coming from, and let's
It's
see.
about half and
I
half.
don't doubt that there are bigger problems. I don't, but I don't think I agree with Councilmember. We don't know enough to.
It's about half and half resident, non-resident from historical data. So 2020 and 2021 are probably not good data to use, but looking back further, that would probably be a fairly accurate statement. And I would agree with Vice Mayor Bybee is that if you don't allow them, they're going to be the ones coming in and just setting up shop without providing them the opportunity to actually have a permit and be a legitimate park user. And so, my hope is that this is a pilot that can get us through the summer. We can test it out. We can see how this works with the staffing out there and see how the enforcement and the education goes. And it's not going to be overnight that all of these tables become reservable because it's new. And so it's going to take some pushing out of the information from our team through our activity guide and, people at the park to kind of share that message in the good signage. So, but we are planning to stencil on the tables, permit required, and have them all labeled so that it makes sense as to, where they all should be.
And you might find that you adjust that balance with small parties having a little earlier time and or non-residents paying a little bit more fee. That may, and all of a sudden you're at 70-30 or 60-40, it may be acceptable. So I'd be concerned about doing like the nuclear option yet. We just don't know enough. But Councilmember Lopez, you had a question.
Well, and that was exactly going to be one of my points, which is that when this does come back, I'd love to just have some of that information, or if we need to have tweaks, absolutely. And to Councilmember Gibbons' points, I think all the ideas are good. So I recognize that there's a problem clearly, and I think I appreciate staff is trying to be a little innovative and creative in how we approach this and find the right balance. And so not disclosing doing more, but I like this approach for now, and then hopefully we can have what we need to make a more informed decision later. But thank you for trying to work with, and to the community also for being practically trying to work with us on this.
Can I ask you one more question? It may be in there. This requires bringing someone in through PD, for example. How long would it take to actually have somebody hired, trained, and implemented?
I'll let the chief answer that.
I'll make your worth your while to attend tonight, so we'll bring you back.
Get my steps in. Thank you.
When you hit 10,000 on there, you're
not yet. A couple more questions, maybe. I think this position is hopefully a little quicker to hire than a full-time position. We're actually looking at partnering with San Jose State and possibly bringing in some college students who have an interest in a future law enforcement career. And I think this is a great starting position for that. So my hope is that we could get this filled within the next 4 to 8 weeks, hopefully.
Okay, and to some extent, it is an entry position into PD, which is excellent extra benefit. I'm asking because I know it's hard to find people.
It is hard, especially for sworn law enforcement, but I think this position offers us an opportunity not only to help resolve an issue that's going on at the parks, but it also gives us the opportunity to potentially get some new employees who may be interested in developing their career here.
That's even a better idea because we've had a lot of people come up through the Scout and CSO ranks, right?
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say kudos for seeing it as an opportunity. I think that's great.
See, no other comments? Is there a motion? Oh. Vice Mayor Bybee?
Okay, I'll make a motion that the city council adopt the resolutions approving the proposed revisions to the picnic reservation policy, FY '22 fee schedule, and budget adjustment for additional expenditures.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Bybee, second by Councilwoman Landry. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Gibbons?
Aye.
Councilwoman Landry?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bybee?
Aye.
Mayor Resnikoff?
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Director Bissell and Chief Berg. I move to new business. There are no new business items. We move to unfinished business. Item 9, extension of temporary downtown parklet program. And I think our presenter is Community Development Director, Rob Eastwood.
That is, that is correct. Mayor Eisenkopf, honorable council members, Rob Eastwood, Community Development Director, here tonight with you with, I believe should be a quick item. This responds to council direction from January 18th when you considered options for a permanent parklet program. In order to provide staff enough time to develop that program, you requested staff come back with an extension to the temporary parklet program. What's before you tonight is an extension till October 31st. We believe that gives enough time for staff to develop the program, bring it to council, get buy-in on the elements, bring an ordinance back to you, have it adopted, and still have a period after that to allow temporary parklet owners either apply for permits for a permanent parklet or take out their parklets. That's all the report I have tonight. I do have Economic Development Specialist Michael Thomas with me. If you have questions, and of course, I'm available also. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for staff? Councilmember Gibbons?
Just a quick couple. Council also asked at the time to at some point come back with an understanding of what we might want to do, not only on the city streets, public property, and public parking lots, but also private parking lots and things like that. Do we have a sense of where that fits into your plans at this point?
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, I think we're going to use this as a template of how to develop use of parklet in spaces, either public or private, based on how the program is built out. We'd use that to come back with ordinance provisions that would address outdoor seating spaces on private parking lots of that nature.
And my recollection is that it has the same time frame constraint as the parklet program. So I just don't want you to get caught short. That's another thing that we've got to work on.
If I can, I don't want to overcomplicate it. Those issues are tied to the declaration of emergency,
That's
so long
my
as we
point.
continue that. So
Yeah.
if we get to the next extension of a declaration of emergency, we can address those issues, either decouple them or keep extending the declaration
This is
as we
only,
need to.
my point was only making sure that it was clear that we can't go, oops.
No, we're still aware of those issues, and they're sort of fluid with what we're doing with the declaration of emergency, and that'll dictate how we handle those if they're done separately.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open up to the public. Is anybody in the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring back to council discussion and or a motion if no discussion. Councilmember Gibbons.
Thank you. My night to talk. Okay, so I would just like to put out some more thoughts and information, more for staff's benefit and council discussion, not intended to quote unquote be any direction. I did, as you know, look up and provide to staff the Morgan Hill standards, which may have a good template and some possibilities. I also called the past mayor of Los Gatos to understand, because there's a lot of weird things going on in Los Gatos, and I was trying to figure out why one thing was happening one place and one was happening another. So what I found out is that they had actually considered a parklet program before COVID. So some of the parklets, particularly the one that's in front of the coffee shop, I think on Main Street, I never get the street names there, where they actually poured concrete, it's a sloped surface and all of that. That was part of an earlier program. So what they're doing now is, and I'm offering this because I think we're going to be asked for some policies going forward. So I was trying to understand where all of these different things came from and where they're going. So their new program required businesses to submit an application prior to January 31st, a date certain. And then they had policies about how many spaces each business could have and how they could be combined. But what they also did is they set up 4 standards, and the city did the designs for all 4 standards, which included structural engineering of barricades or barriers. So they took away all the K-rails. So they did that kind of thing. They did an interesting parking analysis, which told them what the implications were, but they decided to put 30-minute parking spaces near key points so that Uber drivers had a place to park, or that DoorDash had a place to park. So they did some other measures to make the impact of the reduction in parking be more effective for the businesses and community as a whole. I thought that was pretty good. They also did things like employee parking. They had employee parking moved even more remotely. So again, it left the more convenient spaces for the business client. I asked if they did any for retail, and they said the only retail that they knew of was Apple. And that was because Apple had such a big crowd when they have a new product draw. So they were trying to accommodate a safety issue with that. They funded it with grants. The costs where the grants had to be applied for, they paid 75% of the cost with ARPA funds. And then the business provided the rest, and they had specific guidelines about cleanliness. And they did not allow benches. They only allowed tables and chairs. They so far have not had overnight residents utilizing the facilities. They were trying to set up a public-private relationship where the furniture was left out and anybody could use it when the business was closed. That's a interesting challenge, but I thought of note. They also required full removal of all of the parklets that had been put there so that all new ones would be put into their standard. And even here, which was interesting, when I did a walkthrough of what we have downtown, we have a lot that built out to the sidewalk. Most of the ones that built out to the sidewalk level, rather than leaving it at street level, didn't have a place on the sidewalk to eat. So they were really making new space in the street area. Some others that actually had dining in patio areas or setback areas didn't bother to put the podiums in. They actually left it at street level. And I'm going to guess that we might want to have a standard where everything is the same no matter what. That's something the consultant can look at. Los Gatos thinks that they will probably have to have a lottery or some kind of sunset or something, because one of the things we know is there's a lot of businesses that are changing downtown with new restaurants, and there may be new demand. So how do we determine how many spaces we have or need? Because we have the complexity of having events and the farmers market, and what's the right balance between that. So I just thought that was interesting to share. A lot of the staff report says you're going to be looking at this, the consultant's going to come back, but I thought it was helpful to share for council as well as staff some of this information.
Councilwoman Landry.
Yes, Councilwoman Gibbons and I were having a conversation about construction, and she thinks this would take a couple days to construct one of them, and I'm thinking it's going to be longer. But my concern is you have a little bit of construction here, you have a little bit of construction here, you have a little bit of construction, and that's kind of disruptive to the whole part of downtown. And if there's some way in the moving forward that there's a window, that there's a window for the application, then there's a window for construction. And I don't know, I thought even, do we close the whole block if 20 or 10 or these parklets are being built? Do we close the block for 5 days, 10 days to kind of have a minimal impact as we move along down the street? So just kind of coordinate how it works for actually installing them. And I do see the issue with new businesses coming in, and if we're trying to leave spaces open for the festivals and for the farmers market, you know, are these permits have time limits on it? Are you good for 5 years? Or I don't know how to do that, because like Campbell Brewing now is going to be a new business. They're going to take over more spaces. The flea market may be counting on those. So I think, you know, there's a lot of balancing things that need to be going on.
Other comments? And I should, I guess, point out, this all assumes, these are good points, but this all assumes that we go to a permanent solution here, and then we go through, this is the issue before us today is extending the temporaries. So I assume if we do that, this is going to come back to a lot of these issues we're talking about, to talk about specific design and how we do it, and the construction functionality and stuff like that. So just wanted to, but today you're asking us one specific thing, is it correct? Do we extend to October 31st?
That is correct, right. And need the extension to the program to allow time to develop the program. We'll be back to you in April. Took under consideration all the notes with the elements of the program for you to review and authorize to go forward.
Okay. So I mean, not bad issues, but.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Sorry, Councilwoman Marbury. So this, again, tonight, this is per your council direction to extend the temporary program until October 31st. There was an intent by council at the last meeting hearing tonight to look into establishing a permanent program. We need time to build that out, the elements we talked about, the spacing and some of these other elements. We're coming back to you in April with that overall program design. Based on council direction, we'll come back with ordinances after that in May. And then once ordinances are effective, they'll have the time period to apply for permits and then construct.
So these issues are all relevant, but they'll come back to us in April and into May.
Correct. You're not making a decision tonight on the elements of the permanent program. That's not on your agenda tonight.
I'm sorry, it is still hard to hear you, but I would just offer that the way the staff report's written, it's talking to all of these points. It's talking about furniture and storage and design and hiring a consultant and all of that. So to me, you are looking for input based on what you put into the staff report. You are looking for input as to what to bring back in April.
Well, to be clear, we came to you in January. You remember that we had 8 questions. Does Campbell want a parklet program? Here are some decision points on what the parklet program looks like. You provided that input. What we put in the report is what we heard from you. We had gone through the minutes and our notes and reported back. Here's what we heard from you on your input. I mean, staff is more than able to take additional input from council, so we know what you're thinking. But tonight, simply the action is to extend the temporary program.
I misread what the
I
staff
viewed
report was
it. I viewed
asking.
it differently because we gave direction and this, but even then we said, well, if we do this, we have to come back in February or March and extend it because you need time. So this is basically just the extension to get the time. And you're considering the input you've already gotten, but there will be more opportunity in April to get more into the nuts and bolts of everything.
That is correct.
Are you saying in April, you're going to have a consultant on board, or we're going to come back in April with all these things to discuss, and then you will be looking for the consultant if we go permanent?
Well, I'm talking this over right now with the city manager. Our intention is to bring back to you the total program elements of what the parklet program will look like in April. As to the design, I think we've heard from the city council intent to have this design be done by a consultant. We do intend to go ahead and start to look for a consultant to bring on board. I can't commit to you at this point where the designs will be at in April for you to look at.
But we are going out for consultant now?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's below the amount that you can award the.
Your lights off. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think it was previously authorized.
That was authorized in January.
For us to do that. Tonight, what we're trying to do is just extend that program. We are going to come back and talk about those design elements. So all of those things are all valid points. They're all things we need to consider. We appreciate those, but they're not things we're going to solve.
But to focus it back, we're giving you extra time to get the things that we asked for in January done.
Correct.
And we knew that would be needed. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Any other comments or a motion? I think we opened. We opened public comment? Did we not? I think we did. Thank you. No, it's easy to forget.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we adopt a resolution extending the temporary parklet program through October 31st, 2022 for outdoor restaurant dining and business operations in parklets.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Landry, second by Councilmember Lopez. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Givens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Landry.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bybee.
Aye.
Mayor Resnikoff.
Aye. Thank you very much. Passes. We move to item 10, which is council committee reports. I'll start to my right. Councilmember Gibbons.
Okay. Association of Bay Area Governments is meeting every month partially to extend our authorization to continue remote. I will say that there was a very, very lengthy legal discussion with legal and the board on what happens when the governor ends the state of emergency at the end of March and how much we have to meet in person. So that was quite a serious discussion. The Historical Museum and Ainsley House had its annual retreat and established its program and budgets for the coming year, and has a very solid, good foundation board at this point, which is great to see. The Cities Association of Santa Clara County Legislative Action Committee met. The Legislative Committee had a presentation by Assembly Member Berman, who will become our new Assembly Member. He was asking for information or feedback to his new blank slate proposal of how the VTA governance board should be changed. He came up with legislation last year, which was quite dramatic and got squashed at all local levels. So he's coming back now as part of the second year of the 2-year bill it became, and asking for feedback on how the VTA board might be restructured. So if anybody has any feedback on that, you can let me know or go directly to Assembly Member Berman's office and send him any comments. It's complex. Let's see, the Education Subcommittee we mentioned met before. We're going to have a Councilwoman Landry and I are going to have a follow-up meeting with the Santa Clara County librarian to discuss the possibility of a program for mental health help and information for parents. So that's happening on Thursday. And the Legislative Subcommittee will have its first meeting on Friday. I think we're meeting with Council Member Lopez, so I look forward to that. I just remembered the Legislative Action Committee at Cities Association also had a presentation from State Senator Cortez's office, and it was regarding the Brown Act and anything that anyone would like changed in the Brown Act from lessons learned over the last 2 years. So again, you can let me know or send comments directly to Senator Cortez's office. He's our senator until the first of the year, and then we switched to Senator Josh Becker. And let's see, Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board. The mayor mentioned, thank you, the short film competition, which is great. And let's see, then in March, we're going to have a grand opening of the Slate. I think it's a 160 megawatt new solar and storage facility, which is going to be a very exciting event for us to bring in all that new power. So thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you. I have the VTA Policy Advisory Committee meeting. Brief meeting with mostly informational items. Probably the most pertinent was an update on the progress of current projects that that VTA is monitoring. The relevant one for us being the Campbell Harriet Avenue sidewalk project, which is on schedule. And we also had a action item about updates to bicycle parking standards and micro mobility standards, which is skateboards and scooters. So briefer meeting this time.
Thank you. Councilwoman Landry.
I have no meetings that I've had since I've been gone. We are, as Councilwoman Gibbons stated, having our educational subcommittee on Thursday, and I think it's a great topic. We had talked about before about mental health services for parents of students at our schools.
Okay, Vice Mayor Bybee.
So I attended 2 meetings, one the Santa Clara County Cities Association, and there were 2 presentations at that meeting. One from the director of the Institute for Local Government, which was a informative little presentation about council decorum and council interactions and council relations. I thought it was very interesting. It was kind of a speed dial presentation because the previous speaker went well beyond the allotted time, so she had to really condense her presentation in like 30 minutes. And then there was also a presentation on the current housing legislation and a summary of what's happening with SB 9 and the other legislation. And then I also attended the Friends of the Heritage Theater meeting last week, and there were no reportable actions from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. I had a virtual meeting with Stephanie Kashima, who's president of West Valley College, and really just to kind of understand what's going on at the college. And to be honest, in the conversation, she was most impressed that we are trying to work within the confines of SB 9 and other laws, because they work with they have students from a lot of cities that are actively fighting SB 9 and trying to get around things. So she was pleased to see that Campbell was trying to work within that law and provide the housing. I also had a meeting of Clean Water Joint Powers Authority, also the Solid Waste JPA. They're always back to back. And that one is just about starting the process to do the new collector contract. So those are 10-year contracts we have. So we're going to be looking at that. We did the disposal contracts. The difference is the collectors are the trucks you see that pick up all the 3 bins. And then there's a separate area where we talk about landfills and recycling and things like that. So that process is starting. I think the contract is up in 24, I think. So that will still be going next year. That'll be a process well over a year. Let's see. Had a meeting with SAVACA. We have to do that to extend the emergency ordinance because SAVACA doesn't meet monthly. So any of these ones, including the other clean water and solid waste, as long as we're going to stay remote, we do a quick 5 or 10 minute meeting to extend the ordinance like we do here. And lastly, also had a meeting of West Valley Sanitation District. That is a monthly. So that's everything. Barring any other
I beg your pardon. May I indulge? Since you mentioned the garbage contracts, it occurred to me that the new PG&E rates have been in the newspaper. And I just wanted to let everybody know that the electrical generation rates are going up. Silicon Valley Clean Energy will continue to be slightly less than PG&E, but also at 100% carbon free and a minimum of 50% recyclable, renewable. Words onto mine tonight. I would expect the rates to go up about 15% of that. The distribution costs are the same no matter what. So people are going to be noticing that. And as a result, we wanted to encourage people to check their time of use category, make sure they've made a decision on what rate they are doing, and you can change that at any time. And just to take note that when their utility bill goes up from PG&E, gas rates went up 90%. So just be aware of that's coming at everybody.
Yep. I can say too, we've all seen increases in the bill you're paying every 3 months for trash pickup, and that unfortunately next year is going to go up again, primarily because of state laws that are just adding cost after cost, and also as we see with everything, the cost of the collection, and most importantly, the cost of the disposal, and the cost of trying to get rid of recyclables that used to be purchased and now are paid to be taken away, has changed that whole model. So those prices are going to go up again as well, and everybody by now should have received their little bin for that. That's part of it too, the composting. I was at somebody's house visiting and they actually had it out there, were using it, which was impressive. But they should all be distributed by now. I think they've all been distributed through Campbell at least. So given that, let me note before we adjourn, there's a special meeting, as we mentioned earlier, on Friday, February 24th at the Campbell Community Center, room Q80, to discuss Council's fiscal year 22-23 priorities. That meeting is open to the public in person and virtually, so you can attend that. And with that said, I'm going to adjourn this regular council meeting. Our next regularly scheduled council meeting will be Tuesday, March 1st in this chamber. I'll adjourn us until it does say Friday here. It is Thursday. Thank you. February 24th is the right date. It does say on here Friday. It should be Thursday. My apologies. Thank you.